You know, when you hear the word bully, I bet a very specific image instantly pops into your head.
Oh, totally. Like the classic cinematic scene.
Yeah, exactly. If you're like most of us, you picture the bigger kid on the schoolyard playground, maybe knocking some books out of someone's hands.
Physically towering over them?
Right, demanding lunch money. It's this
Mhm.
image burned into our collective brains from, I mean, decades of movies and TV.
But if we're being honest about what is actually happening in schools and, online today, that image is, well, it's not just a little off.
It's completely obsolete.
It really is entirely outdated. I mean, we cling to that playground enforcer image because it's simple, it's visible.
Easy to spot, yeah.
Exactly. Physical aggression is incredibly easy for an adult to categorize from across the courtyard. But the modern landscape of conflict among kids is rarely that straightforward.
Right.
It is highly nuanced, it's often completely invisible to the adults in the room, and it is incredibly pervasive. The tactics have evolved, which means, well, our defense mechanisms have to evolve too.
Exactly. And that is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to this deep dive, where our mission is to completely shatter that outdated misconception.
And build a modern toolkit.
Yes, a highly effective toolkit for defense, whether you're a parent, a teacher, or honestly, just someone who interacts with other human beings on a regular basis.
Which is all of us, hopefully.
Right. This deep dive is going to fundamentally reframe how you view conflict, emotional regulation, and resilience. We are pulling insights today from a phenomenal comprehensive piece over at the parenting blog, fg-ownyourpower.com.
It's a great read.
It really is. It's titled Empowering Empathy, Teaching Kids Emotional Intelligence to Prevent Bullying. And it's just updated yesterday, actually, May 20, 2026.
And the core thesis we're exploring there is that cultivating emotional intelligence EQ is actually the ultimate superpower for preventing bullying.
Which is such a massive shift in perspective.
Desperately needed, too. Historically, our societal anti-bullying strategies have focused almost entirely on reactive, punitive measures.
Right, like wait for the fight, punish the bad kid.
Exactly. The formula was simple. Wait for an incident, punish the behavior, and try to throw a protective bubble around the victim.
But that doesn't actually fix the root problem.
No, it doesn't. What this research argues is that we need a proactive developmental approach. We need to arm children with an internal psychological skill set long before the conflict ever arises.
Okay, let's unpack this by looking at the actual modern battlefield. Because the statistics we are dealing with are, well, they're startling.
They really are.
According to the National Center for Educational Statistics data from 2022, 1 in 5 students report being bullied.
20%.
20%. Just visualize a standard classroom of 30 kids. That is 6 children in every single room.
It's heartbreaking when you put it like that.
And we're not just talking about the playground anymore. We are talking about subtle verbal taunts, calculated social exclusion, deep psychological manipulation.
And the relentless nature of cyberbullying.
Yes, which follows them right into their bedrooms. But regardless of the form it takes, the core mechanism is always the same. It's the exertion of power through repeated intentional harm.
That phrase right there, repeated intentional harm, is the absolute defining characteristic.
Right, it's not just a one-off fight.
Exactly. It's the crucial line of demarcation that separates, just an argument between two frustrated peers from actual systematic bullying.
And the damage from that is huge.
Profound. That 20% represents millions of children dealing with compounded anxiety, depression, and a completely shattered sense of self-worth.
Wow.
But to actually solve this, we have to recognize that bullying is deeply systemic. It's not just a binary relationship operating in a vacuum between one bully and one victim.
Right, there's a whole ecosystem around them.
Yes. The school culture, the broader social environment, and critically, the bystanders, all play a massive outsized role in whether this behavior survives.
I am so glad you brought up bystanders, because there is an incredible statistic from a landmark 2001 study by Hawkins, Pepler, and Craig that, frankly, completely blew my mind.
Oh, the intervention stat.
Yes. Listen to this. When bystanders intervene, bullying stops within 10 seconds, 57% of the time.
It's amazing.
10 seconds. Think about the psychology of that. It makes me think of the whole bully-victim dynamic like a theatrical play.
Oh, that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. The bully is the lead actor, and they are performing for an audience, the bystanders. They're looking for social currency.
Right. They want the laughs or the fear.
Exactly. If the audience decides to walk out of the theater, or if they stand up and say, "We aren't watching this," The play instantly loses all its power. The transaction fails, and the performance ends immediately.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it changes our entire intervention strategy. Because bystanders hold so much systemic power, the solution isn't just about trying to toughen up the victims.
Right, that's always been the old advice. Just ignore them, toughen up.
Which doesn't work. It's actually about empowering the entire collective system. If we want to create a safe environment, we have to equip every single individual in that theater, to use your analogy, with the psychological tools to disrupt the performance.
We have to teach them how to bankrupt that social currency the bully is seeking.
Exactly.
Right, and if the collective system needs empowering, the obvious question you're probably asking yourself right now is, what is the actual tool we give them? Like, how do we build that?
And that leads us directly into emotional intelligence.
Yeah. The text uses the foundational 1990 definition from psychologists Selvey and Mayer.
A classic definition.
Right. They define EQ as the ability to understand, use, and manage your own emotions in positive ways to relieve stress, communicate effectively, empathize with others, overcome challenges, and diffuse conflict.
It's an incredibly comprehensive definition because it takes the abstract, messy, often overwhelming world of human emotion and turns it into a tangible, manageable, and most importantly, trainable skill set.
Trainable. Yes, that's the key word.
There is a great quote in the research from Jason Langley. He's a registered nurse who sees the fallout of these conflicts firsthand.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, he frames it perfectly, saying, emotional intelligence is a master skill. It impacts every area of a child's life. Arguably the most powerful tool we can equip them with to both avoid being bullied and to prevent them from becoming bullies themselves.
A master skill. I love that. But let's get out of the academic definitions and into the real world. To make this practical, the framework relies on Daniel Goleman's 5 pillars of emotional intelligence.
Oh, right.
But rather than just listing them off like a textbook, let's imagine a scenario. Let's say we have a middle schooler. We'll call him Leo.
Okay, poor Leo.
Right. Leo walks into the cafeteria wearing a new pair of shoes that aren't, a trendy brand.
Yeah.
A kid at the next table loudly mocks him, trying to get the whole cafeteria to laugh.
A classic scenario.
Sadly, yes. Now, how does a kid armed with EQ navigate this? Pillar 1 is self-awareness. This is the internal compass.
Exactly. In that exact second, Leo's brain is naturally going to trigger a stress response. Without self-awareness, he just feels blind panic or instant rage.
The fight or flight kicks in.
Yes. But with self-awareness, Leo can internally narrate the moment. He can say to himself, my heart is racing, my face feels hot, I am feeling humiliated and angry. Naming the emotion is the circuit breaker.
Wow, just naming it.
Yeah, it stops the panic from taking over. That immediately leads to the second pillar, self-regulation. This is where you manage the impulse.
Right, because the biological impulse, the amygdala hijack, is telling Leo to either scream at the kid, throw his lunch tray, or run out of the room crying.
All of which give the bully exactly the theatrical reaction they want.
Precisely.
So self-regulation is the physical and mental rerouting of that power. It's Leo taking a deep physiological breath to override the amygdala, keeping his rational prefrontal cortex online.
He regulates the adrenaline spike.
Yes, so he doesn't react impulsively. Then the third pillar, motivation, is what keeps him grounded in that moment.
And this isn't about being motivated to get good grades, right?
No, in this context, it's about intrinsic self-worth and resilience. The article talks about celebrating effort, not outcomes. It's Leo's internal narrative saying, my worth is not defined by this kid's opinion of my shoes.
Okay, I have to jump in here and play devil's advocate for you listening, because we are about to hit the 4th pillar, which is empathy.
Ah, yes. The tricky one.
Right. The idea of understanding how someone else is feeling. Now, if Leo is actively being targeted and publicly mocked by a manipulative bully, does teaching Leo to be highly empathetic just turn him into a sensitive pushover?
I hear this all the time.
I mean, shouldn't he be learning how to fight back instead of trying to understand the feelings of the kid tormenting him? Like, does empathy just make a kid more vulnerable?
I am so glad you asked that because it is the most common concern parents have, and it fundamentally misunderstands what empathy is in a tactical sense.
Okay, unpack that for us.
Well, there is a massive difference between affective empathy, which is feeling sorry for someone, and cognitive empathy, which is understanding how their mind works.
Oh, cognitive empathy.
Right. EQ is not about being overly sensitive or letting people walk all over you. Think about cognitive empathy as tactical awareness. It's reading the battlefield.
Like a poker player reading an opponent's tell.
Exactly. An emotionally intelligent child uses empathy to recognize the manipulative tactic for what it is. Leo can look at the bully and recognize, this kid is trying to make me look bad so he can look cool in front of his friends. He is seeking a reaction.
He understands the dynamic.
Yes, because he knows what the bully wants, he can strategically choose to deny it to them. He doesn't internalize the insult, he sees right through it. Which brings us to the fifth pillar, social skills.
The application phase. So Leo, having recognized the emotion, regulated his breathing, remembered his self-worth, and analyzed the bully's true motive, can now use his social skills.
And what does he do?
He can look at the bully, give a calm, unimpressed shrug, say something neutral like, I like him, and just turn back to his friends. He doesn't escalate, he doesn't crumble.
He starves the bully of the reaction, the theater empties out.
He becomes a fortress, not a doormat. It is an incredibly powerful internal shield.
It really is.
But let's be totally honest about the friction here. Understanding these 5 pillars is great theory.
Very theoretical, yes.
But how does a busy listener actually implement this? Most of us do not have degrees in child psychology. How do you build this fortress in a kid on a random, chaotic Tuesday morning when you are just trying to get them out the door?
It's the million-dollar question.
The text provides a really practical parent's playbook. First up, be an emotion coach. This means validating feelings instead of dismissing them, which is hard.
Very hard.
When your kid is crying over something minor, the instinct is to say, stop crying, it's not a big deal. But the research says you have to say, I see you're really frustrated right now.
Because when you dismiss their emotion, you teach them that their internal compass is broken.
Wow, yeah. If they can't trust their own feelings about small things, they won't trust their instincts when a peer is quietly manipulating them. Second on the playbook is using everyday moments, like reading emotionally rich stories or watching a movie, and just pausing to ask, how do you think that character felt when that happened? It builds that cognitive empathy muscle we just talked about.
Exactly. But the third strategy is where a lot of adults squirm. Modeling healthy emotional expression. Parents and guardians are the blueprint.
Yeah, this is the one that hurts. Because how do you handle a massive traffic jam when you're late? Or when you ruin dinner? Do you lose your mind and scream at the printer when it jams?
I think we all have our moments with the printer.
Because I definitely have.
Mm.
But children are aggressively observing those reactions. If we want them to self-regulate when they are mocked, we have to self-regulate when we are stressed.
It starts at the top. Fourth, we have to facilitate problem solving. Instead of swooping in like a helicopter parent to fix every single social issue, we have to guide them.
Ask them what to do.
Yeah. Ask, what do you think your choices are here? Let them build the reps. And you have to establish the crucial boundary-separating feelings from actions.
Which means what, exactly?
It's vital to communicate. It is entirely okay that you feel incredibly angry right now. But it is not okay to hit your brother. The emotion is always valid, but the destructive behavior is not.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The concept of fostering a no-shame environment at home.
A very powerful concept.
It really is. This means creating a physical and emotional space where all feelings, even the ugly, jealous, irrational, difficult ones, are welcome and can be discussed without a parent judging them.
Right.
Because when we don't do this, kids learn to suppress difficult emotions. And suppressed, unexamined emotions are exactly the hidden vulnerabilities that bullies are absolute experts at sniffing out and exploiting.
It's a profound vulnerability. When a child feels shame about their own internal world, they become heavily reliant on external validation to feel okay.
They need the peer approval.
Yes. That reliance makes them highly susceptible to peer pressure and to the power dynamics of bullying. To counter that, the research highlights a strategy that sounds simple, but is incredibly difficult in practice active listening.
And this doesn't just mean hearing them.
No, it means the physical act of putting down the smartphone, stepping away from the laptop, making direct eye contact, and listening without immediately interrupting to offer a solution.
Which is brutally hard when your 12-year-old is taking 10 minutes to tell a story about something that happened on TikTok.
Oh, I know.
But the point is, when you give them that undivided attention, it directly builds their self-efficacy. It signals that their thoughts have intrinsic value, making them far less desperate for the fickle validation of the cafeteria crowd.
They feel seen at home, so they don't need to perform at school.
Exactly. Okay, so we have built the shield. We have coached the emotions, we've modeled the behavior, we've put the phones away. Let's look at the data on what happens when this actually gets tested. How does EQ directly dismantle aggressive behavior?
The data is incredibly compelling here. There is a referenced 2015 meta-analysis by Bradshaw and Johnson that looked at exactly this.
What did they find?
They found a highly significant negative correlation between empathy and aggressive behavior in children and adolescents.
So as one goes up, the other goes down.
Simply put, yes. As empathy goes up, the likelihood of bullying plummets. Highly empathetic children are significantly less likely to become bullies because they genuinely feel the psychological weight of the pain they might cause another person.
It's a deterrent.
Empathy acts as a natural, highly effective internal deterrent.
And furthermore, high EQ creates those proactive bystanders we talked about earlier. Empathetic kids are the ones who recognize the theater, step in, and change that 10-second clock.
Absolutely.
And for the targets of bullying, EQ builds the resilience to realize that the bully's cruelty is actually a reflection of the bully's own internal chaos, not a reflection of the victim's worth.
That is such an important realization for a target.
So what does this all mean for the actual bullies? I have to be honest, as a parent, it is really hard to feel sympathy for the kid who's making another child's life miserable. It's hard to want to understand them when you just want to protect your own kid.
That is a very real, very human reaction. It's incredibly difficult. But if our goal is to actually stop the behavior, we have to look at the mechanics of it.
Right.
Bullying almost always stems from a child's own unmet emotional needs. It's a desperate grab for control when they feel powerless elsewhere, or it's a fundamental developmental lack of understanding of the impact of their actions.
So it's a deficit.
Yes. Treating a bully requires looking past the aggressive behavior, not to excuse it, but to understand the root cause. It means realizing they have a developmental deficit. They are missing the empathy and coping mechanisms that prevent this behavior. It's an educational and psychological issue, not just a disciplinary one.
Okay, that makes sense. Empathy isn't letting them off the hook. It is identifying the specific medicine for their disease. However, we also have to be grounded in reality here. Even with the best EQ training, the most attentive parents, and a great school environment, bullying still happens.
It does.
We have to be realistic about when preventative measures need to pivot to active intervention. There are real physical and behavioral red flags that we need to watch for.
Absolutely. Early intervention is paramount to minimizing long-term psychological harm. And these signs are often really subtle.
Like what?
Well, you might see a sudden, unexplained decline in school performance, a sudden reluctance to go to school or participate in extracurriculars they used to love. Obviously, unexplained injuries are a major red flag. But you also have to look for psychosomatic symptoms.
Like the classic Sunday night stomachache.
Exactly. Frequent headaches or stomach aches that have no clear medical cause. That is the body's physical manifestation of chronic stress. You might notice changes in eating or sleeping patterns, increased anxiety, sudden irritability, or social withdrawal.
Or worse.
Right. In severe cases, any talk about self-harm or feeling worthless.
I want to pause and emphasize something really important to you listening right now. If you notice these signs in your own home, it is not a failure of your parenting.
Definitely not.
The very fact that you are noticing these subtle changes means you are tuned in. You're paying attention. This is the exact moment your own emotional intelligence is needed most. It's time to step in, support your child, listen to them without judgment, document the specific incidents, and escalate to the school staff or administration if necessary.
This raises an important question, too, about how we handle the situation if you discover that your child is the one exhibiting the bullying behaviors.
Oh, that's a tough one.
It is. But the exact same attentive, non-judgmental approach is required. As we noted, it stems from unmet needs. And in both scenarios, whether your child is the target or the aggressor, the research strongly reiterates that professional psychological guidance might be necessary.
Therapy, counseling.
Yes. Breaking a deeply ingrained cycle of unmet needs or helping a child process the trauma of severe bullying often requires a professional toolkit beyond what we can do in the living room.
Absolutely. And to that end, the piece provides a critical list of resources. I want to read these out clearly so you have them in your back pocket, because you never know when you or a friend or a neighbor might desperately need them.
It's so important to have these handy.
For comprehensive strategies, there is StopBullying.gov, managed by the Department of Health and Human Services. There's PACER's National Bullying Prevention Center.
Both great resources.
For LGBTQ youth who often face disproportionate targeting, there's the Trevor Project. Their number is 1-866-488-7386. For immediate mental health crises, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is simply 988.
Just 3 digits.
Yep, very easy. There's also the crisis text line, where you can literally just text the word home to 741-741. And the Child Help National Child Abuse Hotline is 1-800-4A-CHILD.
It is vital to have those resources readily available. What this entire discussion illustrates is that combating bullying isn't just about enforcing stricter schoolyard rules or handing out harsher suspensions.
It's much deeper than that.
It is. It's about a holistic developmental approach. It's about actively nurturing the entire psychological landscape of a child so they can navigate a complex world.
I think the closing quote from Jennifer Langley, a human resources expert featured in the piece, brings it all together beautifully.
Oh, I loved her quote.
She writes, "Our power as parents lies in nurturing the whole child. Emotional intelligence is the bridge that connects them all, empowering them to rise above adversity and to be a force for good in the world."
It is a profound reminder that this is an ongoing, lifelong journey. Building emotional intelligence is not a one-time conversation you have on a weekend.
Right, you don't just check it off a list.
No, it's the daily, gritty practice of patience, of constantly modeling healthy behavior even when you are exhausted, and of consistent, compassionate engagement with the kids in our lives.
So to you listening, remember that every time you validate a frustrating feeling, every time you take a deep breath instead of yelling at the printer, you are actively adding another layer of armor to that internal shield.
You're building the fortress.
Yes. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a provocative thought, something to mull over that builds directly on the logic we've unpacked today.
Okay, let's hear it.
If the data clearly shows us that bullying almost always stems from a child's own unmet emotional needs and a fundamental lack of empathy,
Right.
how might our entire school disciplinary system change if we treated bullying not primarily as a rule violation that demands immediate punishment, but as a critical lack of emotional intelligence that demands an education?
That is the paradigm shift we desperately need, moving from a system of retaliation to a system of true restoration.
Exactly. So the next time you picture a bully, let go of that outdated image of the kid demanding lunch money on the playground. Picture a complex system that needs our help, and remember that empathy, truly understood and applied, is the most powerful tool we have to fix it. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today.